Welcome to the show. We're going to start tonight's show with our weekly election update. Donald Trump has fired his campaign manager and is ready to run a different kind of campaign. Jim, any idea what different means in that context?
Yeah, I have no idea. I think his campaign has been different from the start.
He might start insulting people now.
There you go. So, I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. I hope that he's looking for someone that will, and forgive this term, but control him better, because I think he needs to get rid of some of the nanny poo poo style annex at the event rallies. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. He's got to change something because I liked him, but I got to tell you, some of the stuff he's done recently has given me reason for pause.
Well, I think that's certainly the case. I think what's strange about his campaign is, if you look at it in terms of a classic political campaign, he hasn't done anything that anybody would have thought was the right thing to do, and he still became the nominee for the Republican Party. So whatever he must be doing is working to some degree. You would expect, again, if this was a classic campaign, that this would be the pivot to the center to try to move into the general election, but he doesn't seem to be stopping some of his antics, as you called them.
Nope.
Well, the toothpaste is already out of the tube. He's already said the things that he cannot take back.
But they don't seem to affect him, Ron, do they?
Well, not yet. Not yet. Give it time. Because there's going to be a percentage, 6% that the voter public will go after. He's going to get his votes, she'll get her votes. Then there's 6 to 8% in the middle that they're going to fight for.
So I heard that in recent polls that only 20% of those polled, and these are registered voters, were undecided, which apparently is very low for this point in the campaign. Do you have any feel for that?
Well, 20%'s a lot of voters.
Well,
that's a tremendous amount
Well,
of
and that
voters.
certainly can sway an election one way or the
Sure.
other.
But it was 40% at this time in 2012.
Well, and the question is, how accurate are those numbers? Or are they really polling all registered voters, or are they just doing a party-based poll?
Who knows?
So,
I'm sure it varies by by organization.
Some of the stats I've heard recently, and obviously nationally, have about 40 to 50% that are independents that don't belong to either party, and a lot of the states where both of these guys have their power bases are highly independent states. So, I think what we're dealing with is you have two candidates that are very, very unappetizing to the vast majority of voters.
Yeah. So Hillary's your girl. What do you think? Has she got a chance?
Hillary is not my girl. and honestly, Trump is not my guy, unfortunately. Both parties have themselves to blame for the fiasco that is this election cycle.
I hear more and more people saying, though, that Hillary's got a good shot at it at this point. She's got a lot of money.
Well, I mean, she's been
vetted
vetted for how many years?
Having more and more stuff come out. That's embarrassing.
But nobody reports on it.
No. How much has she been vetted over the years? Come on, guys. She's been vetted over the years since the 90s.
And if you think about it, for all intents and purposes, Trump has not.
No.
And I'm sure there's a lot of skeletons in that closet that remain to be fleshed out.
I mean, the amount of fiascos he's had in business, how he's made money, he's the king of debt. I mean, everything that people don't want to hear, he is saying. And is he popular? Yeah, again, there's that percentage of people that will follow a Disney character.
That's probably true. That's probably true.
I'm thinking for next election cycle, I need to work on my makeup.
Well, okay.
Get a big shiny nose.
There you go. They have them. You got them at CVS.
So, the other interesting thing is that, at the one rally in Las Vegas, they had a guy with a gun that was intending to shoot Mr. Trump.
Well, apparently he hadn't thought his plan out very well, although he was apparently dedicated. He had not only tickets to that event, but an event a couple of days later in case he failed the first time, which I'm not entirely sure where he thought he was going to end up in case he failed. which is probably in jail at this moment.
So where's Bernie in all this? I mean, he's disappeared off the stage.
Well, I think Bernie's he's got a group of people and he's got a cause, and he has people that, with education, part of the issue, minimum wage. I mean, we talk about $12 to $15 for minimum wage, and most people don't want to hear $12 to $15 minimum wage. But the same people complaining about $12 to $15 minimum wage are the very people that's hollering about food stamps, welfare, and that type of thing. So as long as you strap people and don't allow them to make money, you're going to have welfare, you're going to have food stamps and problems. So at what point do we determine that minimum wage is a debatable issue? I know the chamber don't like minimum wage. A high minimum wage, $12 to $15 an hour. Most businessmen don't like it either, but it's going to be passed on to the customer.
And that's the key. So if we raise the wage and then we raise the price, what have we gained?
Well, the reality is, you're still offsetting that cost by having to pay through taxes for welfare and all these other programs. So, I think there's a bigger debate to be had there. It's personally, I think, unconscionable if you have somebody who's working 40 hours a week and they're below poverty line. There's something fundamentally wrong with that. Whereas you can have other people who are getting a handout from the government and have an iPhone and seem to be able to chain smoke cigarettes and get free food and everything else.
You're paying for it. You're paying for it
that money's
somewhere.
not coming from nowhere.
But
It's coming off the backs of the middle class is where it's coming from.
And what do they say? Well, if you do that and McDonald's has to, or Burger King has to pick up that extra money, they'll have robots there servicing. Well, that's going to cost some money to do that. There's going to be a lot of technical people involved. That'll create some big jobs. So I think Bernie's message was well heard by a lot of people.
Will Bernie supporters move over to Hillary, though?
Depends what her message is. Depends how she sets her message out.
Does he
Depends what
lose
she
any?
has
Do any of them go to Trump?
Probably.
Just as the outsider.
Because a lot of, I think, what Bernie Sanders was bringing to the table was exactly the anti-establishment piece. And a lot of those people are not going to vote for Hillary. I just don't see it happening. I mean, there's going to be some percentage, obviously, that will, but I think some will either go for a third party or abstain. And, the Green Party did offer Bernie the nomination, and he hasn't said no.
Oh, gosh. So now we'll have 4, right? What about who's feeling the Johnson? Is that the guy's
Gary
name?
Johnson.
Gary
Gary
Johnson?
Johnson.
The
We don't hear
Libertarian
much
candidate.
from him either.
Actually, there was an interview on CNN a couple of days ago that had him and his vice president on, which I actually didn't catch, but it's on my DVR.
Yeah. I can't, I just, the way this is structured, there's no way that a third party can win, in my view.
Well, the real problem is we have this primary system where taxpayer money is used to fund it, and we shut out almost half the population because they're not registered with one party or the other. Would the primaries have been very different if that was not the case? And I think they would have.
No, the Republican primary told you something about everyone that ran against Trump. They were upset with the whole line. And you look at what's going on at a national level. Locally, we have a very important election coming up with the city. I don't hear anything. I
No.
don't see anything.
I don't hear much about the school board race. I don't hear much about the city council. You're right.
Well,
That-
the 4-3 vote yesterday at the school board on Will Cox's extension to a 4-year contract, that lets you know a little bit about what the thought process is, because 3 people were against a contract that you just extended it, a year ago?
yeah.
And now we extend it for 4 more years. Not 4 more years, but 4 years from a year ago.
Right.
Now,
Right.
why do we do that? And no salary increase, no benefit increase. To show the bargaining units now that things are frugal and we can't give raises. Is that what we're all about? Is it the manipulation of a current board reflective of how a campaign's being run? Is it being run through actual experiences today?
I don't know. I looked at that, and I did. Is that something they do every year normally, Ron?
No.
Okay, so this was just a, hey, let's go vote on whether we're going to extend the superintendent. So it's 4 years from last year, not 4 years from
It
this
wouldn't
year?
be 4 years from this year.
I guess it was an amendment to last year's agreement,
Okay,
so it would have the same start date.
interesting. Interesting.
But-
Well, I think we've beat this one to death.
I think we beat this one to death as well. So, next up on the flip side, the Yale Drive extension could be open by fall. Stay tuned to find out why you should care when we return.